Imagine carrying a weight so heavy that it shapes every aspect of your life, yet remains invisible to those around you. It's a burden passed down through generations, ingrained into the very fabric of what it means to be a man. From the moment you are born, expectations are placed upon you, expectations to be strong, to succeed, to provide, to endure, and to never show weakness. This isn't a burden that can easily be set down. It's woven into your identity, an unspoken rule that governs how you move through the world. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who decided this is what it means to be a man? And more importantly, what is the cost of carrying this weight alone? The burden of masculinity isn't new. It stretches back centuries, embedded in history, mythology, and psychology. Take the ancient Greek hero Achilles, for example. He was celebrated for his strength and courage, yet his greatest tragedy was that he could never escape the fate assigned to him. He was a warrior, and that was all he was allowed to be. The same can be said of men today, who are taught that their worth is defined by their ability to fight battles, whether in the workplace, in relationships, or within themselves. Psychologist Carl Jung explored the concept of male archetypes: the warrior, the king, the magician, and the lover. These archetypes represent different aspects of masculinity, each carrying its own responsibilities and struggles. The warrior is expected to fight and never back down. The king must lead, but often stands alone. The magician seeks knowledge, but remains distant. The lover desires connection, but is told to suppress his emotions. Every man embodies these archetypes to some degree, and yet each one comes with a price. Think about the lessons boys are taught from a young age. Don't cry, be a man, man up. These aren't just words, they're commands that shape the way men experience the world. They create a silent contract, one that dictates that a man's value is determined by his ability to withstand hardship without showing weakness. This contract is reinforced everywhere, in media, in families, in friendships. A man who struggles but keeps it hidden is seen as strong, while a man who expresses vulnerability is often met with discomfort, dismissal, or even ridicule. But pause for a moment. What happens to all the emotions that are never expressed? What happens when pain, stress, and doubt are bottled up for years, sometimes decades? The answer is clear. It doesn't disappear. It manifests. It appears in the form of anxiety, depression, stress, and burnout. It emerges in strained relationships, in outbursts of anger, in silent suffering. In the most tragic cases, it leads men to a point where they feel there is no escape. Studies have shown that men are significantly less likely to seek help for mental health struggles than women. Many believe that admitting they need help is an admission of failure. They fear being seen as weak or incapable. But here's the truth. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is the ability to confront that struggle, to acknowledge it, and to grow through it. Imagine standing in a crowded room, surrounded by people, yet feeling completely alone. Alone. You wear a mask of confidence, success, and control, but underneath it all, you're exhausted. You wonder if anyone truly sees you, if anyone understands the weight you carry, and maybe, just maybe, you've convinced yourself that this is just how life is supposed to be. But what if it isn't? What if the strongest thing you can do is not to carry the burden alone, but to acknowledge that it exists? What if true masculinity is not about enduring in silence, but about facing reality with courage? The philosopher Seneca once said, "Adversity shapes a man's character." While hardship can build strength, there's a difference between resilience and suppression. There's a difference between being strong and being numb. So now, I want to ask you, what is the heaviest burden you carry that no one knows about? What is the weight you bear in silence? If you're willing, share your thoughts in the comments. You might be surprised to find that you're not alone. We're only beginning to uncover the deep layers of the male burden. Since the dawn of civilization, men have been assigned roles that define their existence. The warrior, the provider, the leader. These roles were once necessary for survival, but over time, they evolved into rigid expectations. And with these expectations came a silent rule. Failure is not an option. Weakness is unacceptable. Emotion is a liability. Society celebrates the image of the self-made man, the one who rises against all odds, who never complains, who conquers his challenges without hesitation. This image is reinforced in movies, in history books, in everyday conversations. The message is clear. A man must be strong, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and financially. He must be independent, unshakable, always in control, always in control. But what happens when reality doesn't align with these expectations? Imagine a man who loses his job, struggling to provide for his family. He feels like a failure, not just because of financial difficulties, but because he's been conditioned to believe that his worth is tied to his ability to provide. Imagine a father who wants to express love and vulnerability to his children, but has never been taught how. Imagine a young man battling self-doubt, with no space to talk about it because his friends expect him to be strong at all times. These struggles are real, yet they're often dismissed. When a man expresses frustration or sadness, he's told to deal with it, or to stop being dramatic. When he opens up about stress, he's met with skepticism or indifference. And when he breaks under pressure, people ask, why didn't he say anything? The truth is, he did, just not in words. The statistics are alarming. Studies reveal that men are significantly more likely to suffer in silence, avoid seeking help for mental health issues, and experience loneliness at higher rates. The pressure to be self-sufficient isolates them, pushing them further into a cycle of quiet suffering. But here's something important to consider. What if the way we define masculinity is the very thing preventing men from being their strongest selves? What if true masculinity is not about suppressing emotion, but about learning how to navigate it? What if it's not about proving worth through suffering, but about finding meaning in growth? More men are beginning to challenge these traditional ideas. They're realizing that strength is not about pretending to have no struggles, but about facing them with honesty. Masculinity doesn't have to mean isolation. It can mean brotherhood, mentorship, and emotional depth. So ask yourself, what definition of masculinity have you been living by? And is it serving you, or is it weighing you down? In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how men can redefine strength, breaking free from outdated expectations and embracing a healthier perspective on masculinity. Stay with me, because what comes next has the potential to reshape not only your understanding of manhood, but your approach to life itself.